Hey, Chad Tomaschefski here with Kofi Ahulu on Convergence of Networks. Really looking forward to this session. Let's get into it. We're talking about the tech changing your business. I'm Chad, and this is TSI Today. Hey, Chad Tomaschefski back here with our last guest of the day before we head off to the round table. A good friend of mine, very often I get to bring somebody into the studio and have a chat with them about technology, and they're also a good buddy. Kofi, thanks so much for joining me today.
Yeah, glad to be here. Yeah.
Kofi, you're with Fortinet, and we've had a session before with Fortinet, and we really focused on cybersecurity and all the cool offerings, but Fortinet's more than just that. The secret sauce and behind it, all the different gear that they have is really what I'd love to dive into in this session today. But before we do that, why don't you tell us a little bit about your technology journey?
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. I started years ago, believe it or not, in Ottawa, of all places. And I always liked technology, so graduated of Algonquin College, which is actually I like the university, I like the college itself, but from a university perspective, I started at Carleton, then I went there. But got my start really in government, doing a lot of coding, programming, working with different technologies, tying them together across network security, the whole gamut. And then somebody really kind of took a leap of faith is what I would call it with me, because they saw something in my personality that, was more centric around the pre-sales piece, and which I actually saw a lot, and I wanted to be a pre-sales engineer, just didn't know how. And then from there, it was like a rocket ship, worked there, and then moved to Calgary. 17 years later, I'm here still, and working in the industry across not just security, infrastructure, networking, the whole gamut. Pretty much done it all. So,
and of course, involved heavily with IT and OT markets.
Yeah. For sure. My job is taking me across, primarily a lot of the enterprise accounts that are out there, but from an OT perspective, absolutely large oil and gas companies. Not just that, but cities, municipalities who leverage the same types of technology from an OT perspective as well, right?
Awesome. So if we take the cybersecurity that Fortinet is really well known for, we put that in the parking lot for a second. We'll bring it back around, I promise. But if we do that for a second, is there an emerging market that Fortinet is just, this is ours, we're gonna own this market? Or is there a technology or a product set that you really enjoy working with that you think is gonna make a difference in what we're doing today?
It's like a two-part question, really.
It is.
So, for me, if we think about all the maturity or aspects of, Fortinet as a company and where they've grown, just look at the Gartner Magic Quadrant and you'll see kind of where things are. Obviously when we think about our roots itself, they came from, NGFW and a few other different things, but our expansion into switching and wireless, especially on the switching side, which you've seen we've actually increased in the Gartner Magic Quadrant perspective. The other side that I'm really, really, proud of even now, we're looking at the kind of undisputed leader of SD-WAN in the Gartner Magic Quadrant, which it's a huge feat for Fortinet. And then just the idea and concepts of being able to wrap all those pieces into a single operating system, which is really big and easy for customers to consume, is what I'll say. Some of the things that we don't really talk about a lot is what that convergence really means for a customer, as you think about security and networking. So when you think about firewalls, switches, APs, the underlying technology, all part of Fortinet OS or FortiOS. And then really as a whole, when we think about being able to manage that, it's bringing simplicity to the end user or the managing partner, right? So whoever that may be, because it's a single operating system, single pane of glass in a single area to get all that telemetry. Right. And then the other side too, if you think about technology, you literally can't go by without talking about AI. I hate to say it like that, but it is literally everywhere. So when we think about how we're embedding AI into every single one of our technologies, we have multiple patents that are spanned over 10 years when it comes to AI. We lead the market when it comes to AI patents itself. How we use it, not just for detections, but how it's integrated into our technology, whether it's our camera technology, whether it's our Wi-Fi technology, from a self-healing network perspective, whether it's how we're actually bringing it in. To each and every one of the ways you interact with our technologies. So we're bringing it in so that you can have that kind of natural language model, general processing piece where you think about how you communicate with your management console to derive results, right? So a lot of cool ways that we leverage our technologies or enhancing our technology to do that. So AI is a big thing.
You mentioned something that I think it'll probably be lost on a lot of the viewers. Gartner Magic Quadrant.
Yeah.
Talk us a little bit about what that is.
Well, I mean,
I have a vision of what it is, but I think I probably know enough to barely be dangerous.
Yeah. Well, I think part of the thing here, and I don't want to speak out of turn or anything like that. So, but really, you think about it as it's a quadrant that gets created that puts you into certain areas, and there's the kind of the 4 quadrants of where it is, where you're kind of an undisputed leader, you're kind of a niche player, you're a challenger, visionary, etc. And really, what it does is it kind of stack ranks us competitors or whoever the vendors are into a specific area. So if you look at something like SASE or SSE, there's a Gartner Magic Quadrant for something like that. If we think about SD-WAN, as I mentioned before, it's a technology that people consume. They want to know where you rank in comparison to the competitors. And really what it's related down to is the completeness of the solution itself, but also your ability to execute and all those elements that help guide customers into their decisions. We can look at it's really used by a lot of people. There's other, I would call it, not just quadrants, but like analyst ratings, like Forrester Wave, for example. There's GigaOM, there's a few others, there's depending on what you're looking at. Right. And I think across every one of the industries. But from an enterprise, the enterprise standard, it's there.
Kofi, you've had some great experiences. If you look at your LinkedIn profile, I reviewed it on the weekend, and all the awesome companies you got to work with.
Yep.
And you can actually trace how you've kind of grown in the industry.
Yeah.
And I think for a lot of people in technology, that's the case.
Yeah.
Through your tenure, was there a technology you looked at and said, this stuff is going to change the way we do business? Or is there a technology that you looked at and went, oh my gosh, I want nothing to do with this, it's terrifying?
Well, I mean, I think I'll break this down into two sections. Like, if you think about what I've done in my journey, and what I'd probably encourage a lot of people to do is like set a goal for yourself, like a really far out goal into what you want to do, where you want to be. You think about financially where you want to be and what companies. I've always wanted to work for vendors. I think vendors are great. Not saying that I wouldn't work anywhere else, because I would for the right opportunity, as you've seen in my profile. I think one of the big pieces here is every kind of 5 years or 10 years within technology, there's kind of there's huge push or change. Security's been very consistent across the board because you've always needed it ever since kind of the first and earlier attacks. Nobody really thought of anything, or they weren't very complex. Now they're extremely complex. They require a lot more. I don't think security is going to be one of those pieces that will change. I think cloud. So I did do a lot of work kind of in the, call it private cloud, public cloud type of area, what that looks like from a hybrid perspective. You've seen where cloud has taken a lot of the different businesses. So you kind of see that when we first start, it's like a lot of on-prem infrastructure stuff. I did work with a company called, VMware. So it was a great one there. They kind of dabbled in both areas, but really focused on that private cloud piece, but then extended, of course, into the public cloud space with their different offerings. Love those pieces, love those technologies. If you think about the future though, like we're at the cusp, I think personally, when it comes down to just what we can do with AI. I think we're only seeing, and this doesn't just span my industry, you think about how AI has touched every single one of the different infrastructure or areas, not just infrastructure areas, but like literally areas, right? So we think of what it does for medicine, we think of what it does, from a computing perspective, robotics, even how they're using it to help code. You think about how AI is used to help the AI platforms themselves. This is huge. Kind of the rise of the next generation data center is what I would call it now. So you see some of the data centers that are now, some of the bigger vendors that are, or data center builders that are out there now, I think are unreal, like just in the size and scale and compute power required to do it. So I don't know, I'm a big fan of setting your visions, in the future and really getting an idea and understanding of what part you want to play in it, right? But there's a lot of parts in the job whether you want to be the hands-on person or you want to be the person that, kind of helps mentor, guide, manage people and different things like that.
Sure. I was recently at a Bixie conference in Las Vegas, and one of the courses I took was for Wi-Fi 7, and you know, you have to wonder how many more different iterations are we going to have of a Wi-Fi access point, and I really think it's probably going to be endless. You know, for a lot of people, they think it's just about being faster. The reality is it's about being fatter, creating a fatter pipe, so that we can push more data down there. But one of the cool things that I saw on Wi-Fi 7 when I was taking the course was geotagging. So geotagging devices that are Bluetooth. Do you have an opinion on this technology? Sometimes you look at stuff and you wonder if it's up to no good. But on other sides, you know where they're going to use a technology like that. A mall, for example, they'll be able to determine that the paths of people inside of a mall. If there was a fire drill, they'd be able to determine immediately where somebody is located, or a Bluetooth device, and go to that area as quickly as possible to save somebody from a fire or whatever have you.
And the other thing is the pluses and the minuses. And I think really I'd personally like to focus on a lot of the pluses if we think about what it does for everyone as a whole, as you start to enable some of the technologies itself, what Wi-Fi 7 does, especially for the expansion of IoT devices. Like, if you think about how many there are, it's insane. Like, and just the ability to interconnect these pieces, change the way people interact with different technologies. Kind of to that point, there is a dark side, I guess, if you think about what somebody can do, what a hacker could possibly do if they get access to some of that information, understand and find out where you are or where you've been, or kind of follow you through, your day-to-day. Like, that becomes a little bit scary. But
like getting followed with somebody's AirTag every once in a while, it says someone's following me.
Well, exactly. I mean, it's that, but you think about every device that we do have, Bluetooth is turned on by default. So it's kind of one of these things. It's always going to be there and on there. So maybe awareness perspective as to what that looks like. And when I think about, as a feature becomes available, there's always some security element that's going to come into play that we need to deal with. A lot of the visibility that, when we think about Fortinet, it's tracking and tracking a lot of the analytics and telemetry that comes into some of these devices that might play into how do I want to leverage some of the data or information that may come in there. Maybe it's something, to your point, it's strategic alerting on humans that might be in, call it a hazardous environment, and it's critical. Time is critical because that might be loss of life or something like that. Or maybe it's the fact that a police officer needs to track and look for an individual that may be lost or involved in human trafficking. I think of the pluses of having some of those technologies built in is huge, right?
That's awesome. Kofi, before we head off to the roundtable, a question that I ask everybody is, how do we get young people involved? Because I know you personally, I've seen how you've taken technology and embraced it in both your personal and professional life. Is there some advice you might give to a young person that is kind of wondering what are they going to do next? Maybe come on over to technology, here's some cool stuff you can do.
Yeah, I think there's a couple things. One is for the guys who are my age, think about this. I think one of the bigger pieces is to be able to mentor the up and coming generation. There's a lot of people with a lot of questions. We have a lot of battle scars when it comes down to what we've done, what jobs we've been part of. I think that's kind of one of the things that I would advise, just even you or myself or any one of your peers is just mentor somebody. You get an idea of what that generation is and give them some guidance. And then the other part too is, for the younger generation, like I said, it's changed a lot from the time, I would say, when I first started to now. There's a lot more meetups and groups and ability to interact with different fields and areas and people with the same thoughts, the same goals, the same vision. And there's people out there that want to create something new, and just find those people who want to do that and then tag on to those pieces and those parts. I think that from a job perspective, really kind of up to the person, really. It's how motivated you are. Try new spaces. Don't think that you have to start kind of in that bottom area. There may be some avenues when we talk about sales or pre-sales, especially what I do is I try to inspire people that this is where you want to go. But you have to be very inquisitive. That's what I will say, because if you're not, technology might not be the best place for you.
Quite possibly. We talked earlier about, someone took a leap of faith and brought you in. I think that is probably true for a lot of people in technology.
Yeah.
Somebody else seen something in there. And I think what's really important is if you're a young person wanting to get into technology, be willing to learn every day. If I'm the smartest guy in the room, I know I'm in the wrong room. And if you're always learning and always willing to learn, someone will latch onto you. Somebody will see something inside you. I've seen it in people. Kofi, you've seen it in people. And believe it or not, somebody's seen it in us and brought us along the way.
There we go.
Kofi, thanks so much for joining us. Before we head out, can you tell our audience if they wanted to get a hold of you, what they would do?
Yeah, I mean, you can find me on LinkedIn. Just search Kofi Ahulu. That's the easiest spot to connect. I do repost a lot of information on there. I don't really have any other socials, to be honest with you, that I like to give out. That's the primary one that I focus on. So if you want to get a hold of me, that's the best way. Right now, you can reach me at Fortinet, KAHULU @fortinet.com. Feel free to shoot me an email. I'm more than happy to answer any questions or point you in the right direction.
Kofi, thanks so much. Let's head over to the round table.
Sounds good.
Thanks for watching TSI Today. Catch up with us next time when we learn more about technology changing business today.